Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, he's occupying our space, Mr. Speaker. Why can't they just move to their side?
Order, Robert Mbui. Order, Robert Mbui. If you listen to me carefully, Robert Mbui, order members. And I want you to listen to this carefully. Order members. Order. I did say Robert Mbui, and you are misconducting yourself. You are too senior to be told to leave the chamber. I did say, and I want to repeat, and Emilio Odhiambo, who raised the point, has read this judgment clearly. The judgment quashed the direction of the Speaker on the majority-minority. The judgment never declared who is the majority. It is not the court to declare the majority. It is the Speaker of this House. And you better know that. It is the Speaker of the House to declare the majority. Robert Mbui gone. Not Osoro.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to speak it up from what you've actually said, Honorable Speaker. That even upon reading the judgment of the court, the standing orders of this House, Honorable Speaker, gives you power to declare who is the majority and who is the minority. We appreciate the judgment of the court as it is. We are ventilating about the judgment. We respect the courts. But again, it is these very laws that govern, as Honorable Speaker, that give you that power, as Honorable Speaker, to declare the majority and minority. So even as Honorable Junet and the Honorable Emilio Odhiambo, Honorable Speaker, live on rented space, they should know that the final declaration of majority and minority comes from your seat, Honorable Speaker. But even then, Honorable Speaker, perhaps we should ponder and ask ourselves these very pertinent questions. In the past 2 years that we've served in this House, Honorable Speaker, we've served in these capacities, as it were, on who is the majority and who is the minority, Honorable Speaker. Several decisions have been made. We have formations of the committees that fall on the majority, minority, chairman, the committees that are supposed to be led by members from the majority side, and the committees that are led by the members of the minority side. Does it mean, Honorable Speaker, that every decision that has been passed by the committees, or any report that has been passed by the committee that falls on the minority, as it were then, and the majority, is it rendered mute as it is right now, Honorable Speaker? If going by the judgment, if we read on the judgment, like they want us to define it as it, just on plain paper, Honorable Speaker, that is question one. Question two that we should ask ourselves, Honorable Speaker. Right now, the selection panel, Honorable Speaker, of the IEBC that was nominated by both the minority parties or the Parliamentary Service Commission, that minority party brought the membership, the majority party brought the membership. The IEBC selection panel has already started working, Honorable Speaker, right now in terms of selecting the next commissioners. What then happens to them? What happened to that selection panel? Because they were appointed on the basis of the majority and the minority when the Parliamentary Service Commission submitted the names. Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, Honorable Speaker. The Commission for Revenue Authority, Honorable Speaker, that again is a preserve of both the minority and the majority. Honorable Speaker, what then happens on the decisions that have been made in the past 2 years? The allowances that have been paid, Honorable Speaker, the travels that have been made, everything that we've passed, Honorable Speaker, in this house. Those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves because we are the midterm of this Parliament, Honorable Speaker. Even as you retire to make this your ruling, Honorable Speaker, it is important for us, Honorable Speaker, to ask ourselves those very pertinent questions because we shouldn't just be...
Okay. Thank you, Osoro. Give him a minute.
Honorable Speaker, you see, we shouldn't just be talking about positions on who is the minority, who is the majority leader. And as Honorable Junet as well put it, we are all members of Parliament and we can serve in whatever capacity. But let's look at the implications of this decision, Honorable Speaker. What happens to what we've passed in the past 2 years? What happens to the right decisions that are leading this country in the past 2 years, Honorable Speaker? What happens to the IEBC selection panel? Those are the questions. Otherwise, I'll tell my colleagues, the Honorable Emilio Odhiambo, who is saying that she has added in her CV the position of the chief whip of the majority. She'll only do that, Honorable Speaker, in her dreams. It will not work. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
David Ocheng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the three judges.
Order, honorable members, can we listen to each other?
I want to thank
Save David Ocheng's time. Order, members. Order. Order, members on their feet. Take your seats. Honorable members, I have given you guidance and I want to repeat. The upshot of the judgment of the court, in law we say we go back to the status quo ante. Status quo ante. When you go back to the status quo ante, then the House has to make a decision and a finding on who the majority is. The court has not declared any party a majority in this House. Read the judgment carefully. Don't speak from what you are hearing in the air. That is number one. Number two, order, Wanjala. I'm just giving you guidance so that you don't speak irrelevantly. We have gone back to the status quo ante. Convince the House as to its majority, the Speaker will make a finding. On a fact. David Ocheng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the three judges for their judgment of last week, Mr. Speaker. We got a new constitution that we keep testing and that keeps guiding us on how we run our affairs as a country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under the law we passed in this parliament on coalition making, Mr. Speaker, it is presumed that there will be coalitions, people will leave coalitions, some will enter coalitions, Mr. Speaker, and so it is presupposed that in any term of parliament, Mr. Speaker, one side will be a minority today, tomorrow that side may be a majority, because this is a moving target, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as to who is minority or majority is not cast in stone, and therefore the finding by the court, Mr. Speaker, that the decision on who is majority and minority in the 13th parliament was decided on 8th of August 2022 is wrongful, Mr. Speaker. I disagree with it because, Mr. Speaker, today, if Ford Kenya and ANC that was left Kenya Kwanza, Mr. Speaker, and joined AZIMIO, AZIMIO will have more members than the remaining UDA, Mr. Speaker. And in that regard, AZIMIO will be the majority party, Mr. Speaker, and will be called upon to make that decision as Speaker and will decide as so. So I disagree with the judge's finding that the decision on who is majority and minority was made once. It cannot be made once. It depends on the facts of the day in this House. If, for example, tomorrow I'll be heard, I'm sure I'm going to be heard. I'm sure I'm going to be heard. I will be heard, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, if today in AZIMIO, if Wiper left and Jubilee left and UDM left, Mr. Speaker, AZIMIO will have only ODM with 85 members, Mr. Speaker. It will be a minority. So the decision on who is minority and majority, Mr. Speaker, moves like a pendulum depending on who has left which coalition. So you cannot tell us that that decision is made once only in the election, Mr. Speaker. And that's why the judges are wrong on this matter, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, very important, Mr. Speaker, it's very important to note, Mr. Speaker, that the day you made this decision, Mr. Speaker, the day you decided on this matter, you had facts before you. You had evidence before you telling you that UDM has left AZIMIO. MDG has left AZIMIO. UDM, MDG, NCPP, PA, you had those facts before you. You couldn't ignore those facts. You can't ignore them. Even in this, Mr. Speaker, you made a finding, Mr. Speaker, that the courts have not said that AZIMIO is a majority. The courts have said, go back and decide. And so AZIMIO must today convince you.
Yes. Morogara, I'll give you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what you need to decide on is the wording of Article 108 of the Constitution and the standing order number 19 of our standing orders. Of importance is the use of the verb to be in that particular article and in that particular standing order. The minority or majority party is the party at that particular moment. And therefore, it is not cast on stone, as the court tried to tell Kenyans, that majority and minority were determined on the election date. The words used, the tense used is, which means from time to time as the issue comes into question. Therefore, the court was wrong, and this is one of the... Yes, I respect the decision of the court, but on appeal, we will be arguing that the three judges were wrong because they actually did not take into consideration the use of that verb to be by having it in the present tense, that it is from time to time. And one example I can give is this. As at before the ruling, the majority was the Kenya Kwanza coalition. If the parties like UDA actually left Kenya Kwanza, does it continue to be the majority? It loses the status because that is determined from time to time by how many members are in the party or how many members are in a coalition. The court actually overreached when they went to interpret it this way, and we shall be taking these matters on appeal. But today, because the course of action of the 6th of October 2022 is spent, we require from you, Honorable Speaker, you give us another ruling using the verb to be. Present tense is. Who is the majority and minority today as we speak in Parliament? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Maklap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want members protect me from these members. Mr. Speaker, this decision of the court, I find it belated. Mr. Speaker, for one reason. This decision was based at a freezing point. The freezing point was on August 9, after elections, after what was called pre-election coalition agreements. After the 8th and after we were sworn in, Mr. Speaker, there was again post-election agreements, meaning, Mr. Speaker, that the formation of parliament and the composition of parliament and in terms of parties and coalitions is a moving average. Mr. Speaker, it's a moving average that will be determined by interests of members of parliament and the parties that form that particular coalition, Mr. Speaker. You are aware, Mr. Speaker, during your determination, at that time, Mr. Speaker, parties like Jubilee had some members moving to Kenya Kwanza. There were some members, Mr. Speaker, UDM had already changed the position, Mr. Speaker. So even if Wamunyora have changed their position now, Mr. Speaker, you need to ensure there is a post-election agreement, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are determining, Mr. Speaker, is a fundamental thing that will guide Parliament for many years. Mr. Speaker, we must determine how many post-election coalition agreements that shall continue to be there to guide the majority and minority in Parliament, Mr. Speaker. In that way, Mr. Speaker, we shall have Parliament that are made of people who are very sober, that they know where they are and where they sit, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in a parliamentary system, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't matter where you sit here in Parliament. It is only a tradition. It is only a tradition, Mr. Speaker. But in terms of determination, Mr. Speaker, of minority party or majority party rests on your case, Mr. Speaker, and rests on existing post-election agreements that have continued to be there, Mr. Speaker. So it is over to you, Mr. Speaker. Based on those, Mr. Speaker, this is a continuous moving average and it will continue to change, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Donya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The fact that, Mr. Speaker, you have told us that we debate and you are going to rule on this one. I ask myself, the fact that AZIMIO didn't win the election of the Speaker, who are the majority then? That is our question. If we are debating, if you didn't win, we didn't win. I'm in AZIMIO. We didn't win the position of the Speaker, who are the majority then. That is, yes, that is the answer. You should answer. Who won? Who won? Put the question, Mr. Speaker. Who won the position of the Speaker? Then, who are the majority? Then, we should be debating on other things, Mr. Speaker. We should help our people. Like Kisi, we have no water, we have no electricity. We are discussing things that have been shot straight. Who was the Speaker then when we came to Parliament? The first time on 29th of September, who was elected as the Speaker? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Wamboka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My contribution is as follows. First, I'll speak as an elder from Luya community. No, you relax.
Order.
I'll speak as an elder from the Luya community that let's keep the Speaker out of this issue. If you get to the position of the Speaker, then we start taking sides and it will not be good. Two, Honorable Speaker, parties went for election and the law required that you choose which coalition you wanted to belong. At that point, that was to determine which side you belong. There was AZIMIO and there was Kenya Kwanza. Some people decided to sign agreement with the Kenya Kwanza. Some decided to sign agreements with AZIMIO. Please, let's respect that position. Then elections were held, results came out. Mr. Speaker, I know some members of Parliament, when we had the first meeting of AZIMIO in KICC, we had Kinamutuse with us. It is only after realizing that the presidency is going segemunege, that is how they shifted to the other side. But the fact that their numbers belonged to AZIMIO has not changed. Now, basic people here are trying to argue that you can change any other time. No, at the time of election, AZIMIO was the majority. Give us that position. Honorable Junet Mohammed is our majority leader. Honorable Milio Diambo is our majority whip. If you feel numbers have changed, bring that here on the table, we discuss it. That is a different thing. But as at election, Honorable Speaker, AZIMIO party is the majority party of this House. Let the Speaker rule. If you feel you have numbers, bring it on. We deal with you. In fact, Osoro, you should be very ashamed. I thought you are a lawyer. Your arguments are below and below and below as a basic nursery school class. So you cannot tell us that. We are the majority. Mr. Speaker, what I have said about the Speaker's stance, keep the Speaker out of these matters. Because sisi kama Waluya, hiyo ndio kiti tuko nayo peke yake. Msitufanyie mchezo.
Sabina Chege. Sabina Chege. Yes,
thank you.
Order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Sabina, hold. Yes, Junet. What is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the honorable member, Honorable Wamboka, who has just finished his contribution, Mr. Speaker, says that the only seat we have in this parliament, the seat of lawyers, is only yours, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, do we assume now?
Order, Honorable. He also said keep the Speaker out of this. So keep me out of this. Sabina Chege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that this judgment is meant to bring paralysis in this House. And you need, Mr. Speaker, to make a decision on this matter. Having listened to my colleagues on this judgment, and I've also gone through it, Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of consideration on the status quo as on 6th of October 2022. Mr. Speaker, from 6th of October, many things have changed. Mr. Speaker, after your ruling, we made committees that were formed in this House. Mr. Speaker, there is also Parliamentary Service Commission that was also formed based on the minority and the majority. We have the IBC Select Commission. Mr. Speaker, we also, as a House, gave the leadership. Early this month, Mr. Speaker, we also received communication or reconstitution of the committees. And this afternoon, we're meant to have the House Business Committee. And so, Mr. Speaker, the big question I'm asking myself. So, who are going to be the chairs or the membership based on the majority and minority? And I think as a House, Mr. Speaker, and the fact that you're supposed to give a decision, you need to clear the air on the issue of majority and minority. After 2 years, Mr. Speaker, many things have changed. There are post and there are pre-coalition agreements. There are some coalition agreements that were done before the election, Mr. Speaker. If we take the case of Chap, Mr. Speaker, even before the election, they had left the coalition that they had signed with before. And so as we make the decision, are they part of AZIMIO? And the other question is, does AZIMIO still exist? Mr. Speaker, as a Jubilee Party, June 2023, we wrote a letter here as members of Jubilee Committee and requested to be an independent political party. So, Mr. Speaker, as we make this decision, are we going to be counted in AZIMIO, or are we going to be counted as independent? And because, Mr. Speaker, we hold these positions, we need clear guidance, Mr. Speaker, on this issue, so that as the whip sit down to reallocate the position, we know where we belong. Simple mathematics, if people are doubting, we can do mlolongo as year of time. We can do the calculation on who is on Kenya Kwanza, who is on AZIMIO, and make a decision, Mr. Speaker, instead of wasting time, Mr. Speaker, on precious time where you are supposed to be passing important bills in this republic. Then, Mr. Speaker, finally, there is broad-based government. So where do we stand?
Thank you. Otienda Molo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for starters, and because not all members have read the judgment, allow me to read 3 paragraphs so that people are in tandem. Paragraph 504. We thus hold and find that the simultaneous holding of the position of Speaker with that of the leader of political party and the leadership positions in the ruling political coalition, as in the case with the current National Assembly, and the concluding part is this dual role is therefore unlawful and unconstitutional. Mr. Speaker, that is paragraph 504. They continue in 505. We hold that the Speaker was elected in accordance with Article 106 of the Standing Orders. The fact that he was a party leader at the time of his election could not invalidate his election. However, for the reasons we have given, his position as the leader of Ford Kenya or the leader of any other political office, for that matter, became untenable and inconsequential the moment he assumed the office of the Speaker of the National Assembly. He could not, and he has no capacity to perform any other functions as a leader of a political party or a political organ as long as he is the Speaker of the National Assembly. I've referred to 2 paragraphs, 504 and 505. That is on the whether the court expressly found the 2 offices untenable. And I will be making a concession separately. Now, 508, and this is important because I think we are debating in ignorance, Mr. Speaker. 508, it is hereby declared that the question as to which party or coalition of parties is a majority in the National Assembly in the 13th Parliament was determined by the sovereign will of the Kenyan voters, during the 9th August 2022 general election. It continues, Roman 2. It is hereby declared that the Honorable Speaker's ruling on determination contained in his communication of 6th October is null and void. Roman 3. It is hereby declared that the Honorable Speaker's ruling on determination, blah, 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 on the minority, again, is null and void. And finally, an order of certiorari is hereby issued quashing the Speaker's ruling. Let me now make my submission, Mr. Speaker. First of all, this matter did not go to court in vain. The contestation, Mr. Speaker, was your considered ruling of 6th of October. Once that ruling is quashed, you cannot then, Mr. Speaker, with due respect, come and say that no decision has been made. The consequences are two. One, the leader of minority becomes the leader of majority by operation of law, even if you do nothing else. But in this case, we have gone further. And under Standing Order 19A, Standing Order 3, it
I'll add you 1 minute. 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, under 19A, it's very clear. The majority party whip shall communicate the name of the members elected under paragraph 1 to the Speaker in writing. And that was already done by the Honorable Millie Mabona. That settles that case. Mr. Speaker, the only way we can start debating whether this decision quashes and changes the position of majority and minority is if we want to practice impunity. Mr. Speaker, and I agree with your observations, it is not in this forum to question the reasoning in the judgment. That must be questioned elsewhere. The only issue is it the finding of the court? And it is. And if we are to be a country that practices the rule of law, let it be appealed. But until then, let it be implemented. Let the Honorable Junaid Mohammed be the majority leader. And it does not matter whether you are in government or not, because we are not debating who's in government and who's not. We are not debating the reasoning. Mr. Speaker, we are not even debating your election because we all participated. Some of us who are not in the other party still voted for you. So,
Milemba. Order, Anjala.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order, Anjala. It suffices to mention that the Senior Counsel has also read the judgment very selectively. Very selectively. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I think this judgment is good. And I want to ask members to exercise restraint the way we are doing as we deal with it, because it will grow our own standing orders and decisions that have been taken by this parliament before, just like when we had the stalemate on who should lead the House Business Committee, and the Honorable Marende made the ruling that has been talked about. Honorable Speaker, in the judgment, which I have also read about 508 paragraphs, I want to spot out one, and which I think the Senior Counsel did speak on. And that's the one that says that the question as to which the party or coalition of a party is a majority party was determined by the sovereign will of the people on the 9th August 2022. That is as it goes. Honorable Speaker, this statement and these paragraphs presumes that Parliament will stay static and there will be no changes in Parliament as at the time when the election was done. The truth is that if we were to follow this, it would mean that majority party would remain majority party for 5 years as determined at the time of the general elections. That is not correct. Majority and minority parties are fluid situations that keeps on changing depending on many happenings within Parliament. We know of the by-elections that are forthcoming in some of the constituencies. We have 4 constituencies which you can name: Benisa, Ugenya, and others which lost or don't have members of Parliament. What are the kind of results that will come out of that situation? Will it not numerically affect the majority and minority leadership in the House? Those are issues that I want you, Honorable Speaker, to determine. It also assumes that there are no post-election agreements which can be done. When you go to Schedule 3 of the political parties, it talks about how coalitions can be entered. you can get out of coalitions, and it determines how they can be done in law. If all those changes have happened, then we cannot be static and say that it is static for 5 years. And therefore, one other reason, Honorable Speaker and members, why the court did not go to the extent of determining is because there are three arms of government. They have the legislature, we have parliament, and we have the judiciary. And the parliament is independent, honorable members. Let's not allow that we shall be told what to do. Here, this must be done by the rules and order of parliament, which is our own standing orders. And that is why, honorable Speaker, you have to make a ruling on this, on which political party, as of now, give me some more time, is the majority in the House. This is not a static position. It's a fluid position that keeps on changing. Let me refer to governments like governments in Germany, Israel, very good examples. Currently, the Prime Minister of Canada is going to resign. Why? Because he has lost some of the coalition parties that were around him. Once he loses them, he's no longer the leader. And therefore, we have to rearrange Parliament. Thank you, and I submit.
Karole Omondi.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I did raise this matter on October 6th. Actually, it was my first statement in this House on the question of which of the coalitions was majority party in this House. The courts have made that decision somewhat by not declaring, but by giving the indication as to how the process should be done. I think we should frame our issues in terms of 5 questions. On the question of what is majority party, it is not for the court, it is not for the Speaker to decide. It is not even for this House to debate and decide. Our standing orders clearly provide the mechanism of determining which is the majority party in this House. The clerk writes to the registrar of political parties. The registrar of political parties gives us a return based on IEBC election results. And on the basis of the letter from the registrar of political parties, this House gets to know which is the majority party. That is the position in law. That is the position in law. And that is what I raised on October 6, 2022. And that is the path we must go back to. That is the path we must go back to. It is not for the courts, it's not for the Speaker, it is not for this House to debate or decide the majority party. Second question is who the majority leader or the minority leader is. By dint of this decision, as we speak today in this House, there is neither a majority leader nor a minority leader. By dint of that decision. And again, our standing orders and the Constitution provide a pathway. We have, as coalitions, must hold elections and bring minutes tabled in this House to determine who the majority leader is, who the minority leader is. That has not been done. So there is no majority leader, there is no minority leader today. My friend Kimani Ichung'wah is out of work, Junet Mohammed is out of work. The third question is the question of the import of this judgment on the position of the Speaker. The position in law is that the Speaker was elected by a majority of members of this House. This decision does not affect your position. Number 4, the question of the constitution of the committees of this House. We cannot even proceed to constitute the House Business Committee today because we neither have a majority or a minority leader. We have to determine those questions first before we go forth and constitute committees of the House. Finally, the impact of this decision on the previous decisions of this House. None. Whatever was done then in good faith holds. We must now proceed and write to the registrar to tell us who the majority party is. That is the position in law. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader for Kimani Ichung'wah.
Thank you.
Kimani Ichung'wah will speak.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Ichung'wah will speak.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me first welcome members back to the House after the long recess and join you in thanking members even for showing up during the special sitting last month. Honorable Speaker, I also take cognizance of the issues before you and before the House. Let me start on a light note, Honorable Speaker, by saying to my brother, Honorable Junet, he said that this seat seems to be warm. And this seat is a seat like any other in this House. I know in a presidential system, Honorable Speaker,
any member can sit anywhere. And if the Honorable Junet feels this seat is warmer than his, we must make sure that we warm Junet's seat wherever he sits so that he feels the warmth of the House. Honorable Speaker, the matter before us is a straightforward matter. And I want to agree with many of the things that have been said, including what the Honorable Karoli Omondi has just said, that the import of this court ruling has nothing to do with past decisions of this House over the last 2 years. Because decisions of the House, whether it is legislation, whether it is approvals that we make, are not made by a party. Neither are they made as business owned by the leader.
Order, Bensouda. You can't just dash across the floor like that. Order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Bensouda is not used to sitting on this side of the House, so we may forgive her. Honorable Speaker, I was saying that decisions of the House are decisions of Parliament. That is why when we move a bill, a government bill, moved by the leader of majority, when it is approved by the House and enacted as law, it becomes an act of Parliament, not an act of the leader of majority or an act of the government of Kenya. It becomes an act of Parliament. And therefore, all previous decisions made by this House have been decisions of the House, and the House subsists as it were on the 9th of August 2022, as it is today, Honorable Speaker, with the unfortunate loss of one or two of our members who have lost, one through a by-election and one by passing on. Honorable Speaker, we also have a very good constitution, Honorable Speaker. And as much as I respect the decision of the court, I completely disagree with the court in many aspects, and some of which have been touched on. I do not want to dwell on to them, Honorable Speaker. But the question that we need to ask you, Honorable Speaker, and ask ourselves, what is it out of the 34 prayers? Honorable Speaker, there is a lot of loud consultations behind me.
Order, members.
I was saying, Honorable Speaker, the gentleman who went to court with a total of 34 prayers before the court. Amongst those prayers was a declaration by the court that the AZIMIO coalition be declared as a majority party and the leader of the AZIMIO coalition in Parliament be declared as the majority leader in the House. The court declined to give that declaration or that ruling. The only ruling out of the 34, Honorable Speaker, that was given by the court was to annul your ruling of October 2022. And the import of that annulment, Honorable Speaker, when they said that they found it to be unconstitutional, null and void, the import of that is we go back to the status quo as at 9th of August 2022.
It's called status quo ante.
Status quo ante, Honorable Speaker. You know, I'm only an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, Honorable Speaker. But at least, I also know, Honorable Speaker, because I studied in commercial law, in my accounting studies, the doctrine of ultra vires, where anything that is ultra vires the Constitution, any
Give him a minute.
Any statute, Honorable Speaker, or any act of Parliament that is inconsistent with the Constitution is null and void to the extent of that inconsistency. And I was saying we have a beautiful Constitution because this Constitution gives powers, or rather powers to enjoy rights, including the right of association, which is the most important thing in our Constitution. Chapter 4 is what, Chapter 4 for Constitution on the Bill of Rights is what has built our Constitution as amongst the most progressive constitutions in the world. Therefore, the members, the 14 members in question, Honorable Speaker, from UDM, PA, MDDG, MCCP, enjoy certain rights that not an act of Parliament can take away from them, including the right to associate. No court, no law can tell the member for Ugenya, MDDG, that he must remain in AZIMIO. There is no court, no act of parliament, including the Political Parties and the Political Parties Coalition Act that was acrimoniously passed in this House at the tail end of the last parliament, can force the 8 members of UDM to associate with AZIMIO. That cannot happen, Honorable Speaker, and that is why, to a large extent, I disagree with the court, because those 14 members enjoy certain inalienable rights to enjoy their rights of association, to associate with the political coalition they desired. And they told us, Honorable Speaker, letters were tabled, including letters, Honorable Speaker, that I have seen from the Registrar of Political Parties, ascertaining that MDDG, UDM, PA, Maendeleo Chap have left AZIMIO. The leader of Jubilee Party in this House, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Sabina Chege, has today enjoys a position as a whip of an independent parliamentary political party called Jubilee. On that basis, Honorable Speaker, Jubilee then cannot and shall not and shall never be counted as part of AZIMIO. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, what, Honorable Speaker, we are inviting you to make a decision on the status quo ante. On status quo ante, Honorable Speaker, it is up to you as a Speaker to now make a fresh ruling, since you are ruling.
Yes, Junet.
Mr. Speaker, it is not my intention to interrupt.
You have already done so.
Yeah, my colleague, Mr. Speaker, yes. The minority leader. Mr. Speaker, is it correct, Mr. Speaker, for the minority leader to mislead the House that those parties who are members of AZIMIO cannot be forced to stay in AZIMIO, Mr. Speaker? To that extent, Mr. Speaker, there is a procedure of getting out of AZIMIO, Mr. Speaker. They have not followed the procedure, Mr. Speaker, and I can tell you I'm the Secretary General of AZIMIO, Mr. Speaker. They only wrote letters to me. They never followed the procedure, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I can see David Ochieng wants to respond to me. That's one member party, Mr. Speaker. We're going to discuss in this, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Honorable Junet. Don't disparage your colleagues. You are better than that. Kimani Ichung'wah, you have 1 minute.
Honorable Speaker, so that I do not waste a lot of time, I was saying that what you are being called upon to determine from the status quo ante is as we speak now, because your decision or your ruling of October has been annulled by the court. Respect to that court ruling is paramount, and you must respect it. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, myself, in respect of that court ruling, today, I have appeared here and decided to sit with my brother, Honorable Junet, wherever I can sit, Honorable Speaker, because that ruling being annulled now calls on you to now look at the facts as they are today and numbers as they are. Honorable Speaker, you know, last week we got letters from the clerk's office, myself and the Honorable Junet Mohammed, to submit names for the House Business Committee. And it is important to note, Honorable Speaker, that both of us have seen submitted names to the House Business Committee, names which appear on the order paper today, both from the minority side and from the majority side, Honorable Speaker. And when we did that, Honorable Speaker, we were cognizant, because we did the letters, some as late as yesterday, of the court ruling. I therefore want to ask you, Honorable Speaker, as you make your decision on this matter, to look at all the facts as they are. The 14 contentious slots in AZIMIO, and I agree with Honorable Junet, there was a process of getting out of AZIMIO. That process, has it been followed? Are there letters? Because, Honorable Speaker, I have seen letters that confirm that UDM, MCCCP, PA, MDDG have left AZIMIO. The Honorable Sabina Chege, Honorable Speaker, I am speaking about the letters, Honorable Speaker, that I have, which I will table before the House, Honorable Speaker, because I have copies in the office, from the registrar of political parties. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to beg of you that as you make that decision, look at those facts. Also, Honorable Speaker, look at the facts that today, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Osoro did submit a letter to you on my nomination and election as a leader of majority in September of 2022, signed and assented to by over 171 members of this House. The Honorable Junet Mohammed, late last year, after the Honorable Pio left, did submit the whip.
Yes, wind up.
The Honorable Junet Mohammed, in his nomination as the leader of minority, did submit a letter nominating him upon election by AZIMIO coalition as a minority leader, signed by a paltry 80 members of the AZIMIO coalition. Actually less than even what is provided for in our own standing orders, Honorable Speaker. Less than what is provided for in our standing orders, because our standing orders have a certain threshold as to who and how many members should have elected you as a minority leader, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is my humble submission that you have facts on your table. Make a ruling when the time comes.
Mwengi Mutuse. Pardon?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, David Ocheng, what is the point of order?
I was mentioned advisedly by the Honorable Junet.
I told him he was out of order, so you are protected.
Mr. Speaker, I just need to mention something, that Mr. Junet claims to be the Secretary General of AZIMIO. Could you tell this House today where the AZIMIO offices are in this country?
Mwengi Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and if you may protect me that I may be heard in silence.
Order, members. Order.
Mr. Speaker, we are debating a very important matter, and you are sitting on a very delicate matter. When you retire to make a ruling, you'll be making a ruling for the country. I am one of the lawyers who participated in the litigation that led to this decision, and therefore I am aware of the facts and the law and the arguments that went into court for this determination to be made. Mr. Speaker, importantly, as you retreat, I am elected under the Maendeleo Chapter Party, which is one of the parties whose membership is under dispute. I will be tabling before this House a letter dated 30th January 2024 by the Registrar of Political Parties confirming that Maendeleo Chapter Party is no longer a member of the AZIMIO One Kenya coalition. And I will be asking you, when you retreat, to give effect to that exit in line with the ruling that you made on the 6th of August 2023, as well as the judgment of the court. Mr. Speaker, as you retreat also, I will invite you to look at an important doctrine that has been developed by the Supreme Court in the United States, and that has been applied locally. And this is the political question doctrine, or the doctrine of justiciability. This doctrine was developed so that the separation of powers can be given effect, so that matters that are for the legislature are left to the legislature, matters that are for the judiciary are left to the judiciary, and matters that are for the executive are left to the executive. It is my submission that the matter of determining the minority leadership and the majority leadership is a matter for Parliament and is not a matter for courts of law. Finally, Mr. Speaker, it is important to look at the gazettement, the gazette notice that declared the members who have won positions. In the gazettement that was released by the IEBC, there was no mention of coalitions. There was no mention of AZIMIO. There was no mention of Kenya Kwanza. In my constituency, they declared Mwengi Mutuse the winner under Maendeleo Chap. In all the other constituencies, and if you look at that gazette notice, there was no mention of a coalition. And therefore, you cannot assign membership based on the election. You assign membership based on the realities of the day. And this is to say that the issue of minority and majority is a moving target and can change anytime. And therefore, I urge you, Mr. Speaker, as I table this letter, to find that the numbers for Maendeleo Chap, we exited AZIMIO, and therefore, we should be counted on the Kenya Kwanza side.
Thank you. Madenge of Nyeri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to start by acknowledging that in our country, the formation of coalitions is around post and pre-elections. And therefore, the determination of this case, Honorable Speaker, would only have benefited AZIMIO if the courts had made their determination urgently as the case was taken to court under certificate of agency. This judgment, coming 2 years late, is unimplementable because the realities are that there have been movements in and out of AZIMIO. Mr. Speaker, it is important that also this House addresses the judiciary, that it is no longer tenable for the judiciary to certify a matter urgent, but make a determination 2 years late. So where is the urgency? And we must be practical in terms of handling the issues of Kenyans when they go before the judiciary. Honorable Speaker, as at this point in time, the only way out of this quagmire is for you, Mr. Speaker, and Parliament to communicate afresh to the Registrar of Political Parties and give us the facts as they are today, and on the basis of the response from the Registrar of Political Parties, make a determination as to which party has the majority members, and therefore let us move on with the business of the House. Honorable Speaker, I urge you to actually start and make a ruling on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Didimas.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. I have read the court ruling. The ruling touches on a number of issues that requires constitutional direction, Honorable Speaker, so that nobody else can misuse those kind of things to put this House into limbo, Honorable Speaker. I have singled out from what the court said that because you belong to a political coalition, you are not impartial in a manner that the Speaker of this House is required, Honorable Speaker. As you retreat to make a ruling on this matter, I want you to put your mind on what the framers of our Constitution and our standing orders mitigated when they said that the Speaker of this House doesn't have a vote. When they said that the Speaker of this House doesn't influence in a manner in which the members of this House will make a decision. Honorable Speaker, Kenya as a country and our House takes a lot of what happens in other countries of comparable jurisdictions. An example of a country, the United States, where their system is also purely presidential system. Our system is also presidential, Honorable Speaker. If you look at how Nancy Pelosi presided over the affairs of the Parliament of the United States, Honorable Speaker, yet she belonged to the Democrat Party, Honorable Speaker. If you look at what is happening now, the current Speaker, it belongs to the Republican. But that doesn't stop them from being impartial in their conduct of the affairs of the House, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as you make a ruling on this, you must be guided by Article 122 of our Constitution that it makes it very clear that the Speaker of the House doesn't participate in the affairs of the House, Honorable Speaker. Last but not least, the role of the courts is not to make any law, but to interpret the law. When we went to elect you as Speaker of this House, we were guided by the standing orders. There is no qualifications as to which, on whether the Speaker should not be a member of any political party. And above all, Honorable Speaker, the Speaker is a member of Parliament. So as you retreat to make the determination, you must bring to the attention of the country that the Speaker is indeed a member of Parliament, but not a civil servant. I beg to differ with the ruling of the Court, Honorable Speaker.
Major Bashir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want to give my input on this matter. Honorable Speaker, this matter is a matter that you have ruled on 6 October 2022. It's now almost 2 years, and looks like you have been taken back on something that you have made a ruling. And from that time up to now, I think this House has done exceptionally well in executing its duty and mandate. Now that we have been taken back, and I think the ruling itself is not in good faith. Honorable Speaker, I was looking at the ruling itself. One thing that I picked is the issue that said the electorates determined who is...
Yes, member for Kibra. What's your point of order? Hold Bashir's time. Yes, Orone.
Honorable Speaker, only 30 members have spoken. I would wish that we reduce the minutes from 5 to 2.
We are doing 3. 3 minutes, Orone, is not too bad.
It's not too much.
Go on, Bashir. Pardon?
Honorable Speaker, I was saying that in part of the ruling, it stated that the voters determined who is majority and minority during the ballot. If you look at the specimen of the ballot paper, there was nowhere written Kenya Kwanza coalition or AZIMIO coalition. It was just individual members